Okay, so this is our first Crossroads discussion of the spring semester. I don't mean to close out anybody here. Feel free to turn the chairs around or participate here again. You're welcome to. If you are new here, have never been to a Crossroads discussion, we do this every Wednesday at noon right here in the lobby. If you're one of my students, I offer extra credit. If you're not one of my students, I can't guarantee it, but what we will do, and if there's nobody watching right now, but they might see this a little later, what we will do is we will pass around an attendance sheet that'll look a little better than this one. And there are two columns here. If you put your name, okay, sign your name, and then if you put a faculty name next to your name, as long as I can read that faculty name, I will try to contact that faculty and let them know you attended. And you can bug them for extra credit, okay, or some kind of credit. If you're in one of my classes, you can get credit, as long as I see your name here and I can read your handwriting, okay. I will pass this around in a few minutes, okay. We're going to wait so that everybody can get seated, and then we'll pass that around in a few minutes. So, with that, let's turn it over. Sagana, why don't you introduce what we're talking about today?
Okay, like Carly said, our first meeting back, so we had a lot happen over break to talk about. Today specifically, we're going to focus on U.S. military and action abroad, foreign policy, military action abroad. We had, obviously, Venezuela was a big one over the break, Iran, Syria. So if anybody would like to take us away, if you have any hot takes on anything over the break, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. Before you go, I'm going to jump into one more thing. You were asked about joining the Political Science
Oh yes,
Association.
I will be here after the meeting as well to get anybody on the group me if they would like to be. I'll chill here for a while after it's over. So
and, that's right, there's also a group me chat thing. And
UNG Connect.
There are officers right now tabling at Nighthawks Fest. And I think that goes on to this afternoon.
Till 1. They'll be done by the time that we're out of here.
Oh, they'll be done by 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, so run out of here early maybe, or whatever. But you can talk to Sanana.
And then also our Instagram. You can always follow that. We'll post all of our updates, all of our topics for meetings. If you have any ideas for topics for meetings, you can send them in to us. So.
Yeah, UNG PSSA on Instagram or on Facebook, if anybody still uses that. And at UNG PSSA on YouTube, where you can see what these things look like, okay? And there are lots of other little things that happen there too. Okay, so you were going to start us. Go ahead, Ricardo.
I'm happy that we finally, Nicolas Maduro was brought here in the United States and facing justice. Because remember, Nicolas Maduro is a dictator who has a long list of charges, like crimes against humanity, repression, extrajudicial killings, and a slew of other varieties. I'm happy he's born here and now he has a face for music. This is a relief for my community as well for others. Because we've been stuck in this situation for the last 26 years. It was started under Hugo Chavez, now Nicolas Maduro, and now Delcy Rodriguez. Now, that does not mean that we're done yet. There is still repression in Venezuela. Even though the Chavista government has released some political prisoners over the last week. And if you guys keep in mind also that Venezuela is also a hotspot for Hezbollah and Hamas and other terrorist groups around the hemisphere. So if you guys want to talk about interference, we can talk about how Iran, China, Russia, and Belarus, they all support Maduro, and in return, Venezuela gives them oil, and they give Venezuela to finance their crimes and operations. Yes.
Now I'm going to challenge your view here. What makes the United States different, as in their interference into Venezuelan politics just to have access to their oil? As you saw after Maduro got captured, the United States is taking over Venezuela's oil reserves. Do you think that has more of an impact, or is it worth the cost because Maduro was so bad for the Venezuelan people?
I don't think it's really like so. I think it's like in the cost because Venezuela, we have a large oil reserves on the planet. So we have to open all doors between the Americas and Venezuela. Like, hey guys, we have to oil. We shall. Do
you think it's in a better interest for Venezuela to align more with the United States rather than China and Russia, or
I think it's aligned with America, with the United States, because we used to have good relations with Venezuela under the Kennedy administration. At the time, John F. Kennedy met with his Venezuela counterpart, Warren Betancourt, and he promoted good relations between America and Venezuela. And in return, they exchanged deals, ideas, and oil, and to promote democracy and stabilization in Latin America. Because remember, in the 1960s, we had the Cold War and communism from Cuba, and that was trying to influence into other Latin American countries.
But who's to say that this is an example of like building good relations between the new nations and not just another example of U.S. imperialism? I mean, see what happened in Iraq. Were we trying to nation build and rebuild Iraq as a nation, or were we trying to get their oil? Who's to say that the United States doesn't go in and just rip Venezuela for all it's worth and leave the people behind?
I think it's not about imperialism. Maybe for many years under Republican Democrat administrations, we have tried to offer Maduro an exit, but nothing has worked. And then when Trump came along, he's like, okay, we get Maduro out of here, and everything will go back.
But who's to say Trump actually cares about Maduro? Because look how he treats Putin. Like, he doesn't really care about like if someone's like an ethical or like a bad leader. He kind of just cares like purely realist of like what he can get out of it. So he doesn't actually care about the Venezuelan people. He cares about the oil and what it means to him as like an imperialist is like, hi, I'm Trump. I can get my name on the map, just like he wants to put his name on a building. I know Ryan wants to say something.
The whole thing with the U.S. intervening in Venezuela is something that really rubbed me the wrong way, because the U.S. for the last, since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the U.S. is kind of hyped up saying that you can't go into other countries, you can't invade, you can't try overthrowing another country's government, and we've been trying to set ourselves as the moral high ground, and then we just did that to another country. We didn't fully invade it, but we overthrew their government. And to put in basically, it seems like this is going to be a puppet regime at this point. Even though they're not trying to say it, it's going to say it's still going to be as a free country. We're putting in our own leader and we're putting in our own style of governments we want in it. So how does that really set us any different from what Russia's doing? Because now this shows to Russia and China and any other tyrannical country like Iran or something like that, that like, hey, the U.S. just did this where they invaded and overthrew a country's government. Even though, yes, Maduro was horrible. Maduro, I'm not supporting Maduro. Maduro was horrible. He did a lot of messed up stuff. But still, us overthrowing that just gave the green light to countries like Russia, China, Iran. Like, oh, we can do that to our own neighbors too. Like, if the U.S. can do that, why can't we? Because then there's a double standard there then. Because that's setting a very dangerous precedent where now people see the U.S. is doing this, who's supposed to be the beacon of democracy, the beacon of safety, and trying to be freedom, trying to be the safeguard of freedom in this. And now they say like, oh, the U.S. can do this. What's stopping us from doing this? That's the major concern that I have with this.
Well, keep in mind, Venezuela is a 3-hour flight from Atlanta, so anything can happen between now. Anything can happen from Venezuela to here. I think that's right.
Okay, we've got a whole bunch of people waiting. We actually have someone who says, I am also a political science student of India Top University. Yogendra Prasadre, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And if anybody does show up online, feel free to post questions. I'm not sure if that person is still online or not. But anyway, we have a bunch of people with their hands raised. Do you want to start over here? Okay, we'll just go around this way.
I was just thinking, I really like Cody, correct? And I'm not sure your name, but Ryan. So what you guys are saying, like I feel like is the idea that's been rooted all throughout history. I mean, coming from like introduction to politics, the first thing you learn about is realism, and it's not about cooperation. It's all about what you can get. And then coming now, like talking about Trump, is other people's welfare, the welfare of others, is that really in his best interest, or is it in America's best interest? Like, how much can we gain? And I feel like it's pretty evident in our actions, our physical actions and efforts, that that's what it's about. It's not about cooperation. If it were, we'd be more on a socialist viewpoint, and we're not. I also agree with what you're saying. I think to like with the invasion, and to set these examples to say what we can and can't do, what's right and what's not right, but then to go and do the same exact thing, it just allots for hypocrisy, and it enables far more dangerous countries like Russia
Exactly.
to go farther. And it's like, if Russia, the invasion, you know, like if they could do something as strenuous as that, and then they see us, a country with, you know, a fair amount of power, doing, you know, similar actions, what's going to stop them from doing something far more disastrous?
Yeah.
And it's not about the caring about other countries. It's about what can we do to make sure we are protected and the most well off.
Okay, Avery?
Well, back to what Ryan was saying, I just think that when you're talking about the green light, I think the green light has always been there when it comes to U.S. and Russia relations. Coming back to the Cold War, talking about hypocrisy on the fact that the U.S. is criticizing Russia about invading NATO, and then we go kidnap Maduro. I think that the two global powers, since the end of the Cold War, have had this idea that basically might is right, and we have the ability to ignore international law when we want to, when it's beneficial towards us.
Do you want to quickly
Yeah, I
respond
want
to
to
that,
quickly
very
respond to
briefly,
that.
and then we'll go over?
When the end of the Cold War, with the Soviets collapsing, the U.S. did try implementing this new type of global order of being like, okay, we're going to try being a lot more, not that anymore. Like, it's not the Cold War anymore. We're just going to be intervening in every single global conflict around the world. But again, the U.S. still was doing it, but we were still trying to we would go out and be like, okay, we're going to tell countries not to do this. This is a new global order now, but especially with the weakening of Russia and all this. But we're seeing now that the U.S. is going back to it and isn't really even trying to even hide it. Like, they're not even trying to even pose it as like with Iraq saying, oh, there's weapons of mass destruction or stuff like that. We just went in, took out Maduro, and then Trump came out almost immediately and said, oh yeah, we're going to be selling their oil reserves. That it wasn't even trying to hide it. That like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're being very obvious with this. And again, the concern that I have is that countries that surround Russia, former Soviet republics, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, countries like that, where they feel like they would want, maybe some of these countries, a lot of them are still very closely aligned with Russia, especially Central Asia. What if these countries want to move away? Because we already see this now with the end of, with the Ukraine war, that countries like Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, and even like countries like Kyrgyzstan, they're trying to move away. Like, not entirely, but they're like, okay, we're seeing this as a pose that like Russia cannot protect us. They're not for our best interest. And they might want to try moving to more of the European or American camp. Would that just condone Russia to be like, okay, the U.S. saw Venezuela moving close with Russia and China. They took out their leader. Why can't we do the same? What's stopping us from going right in their country, swooping their leader out, and putting a new one in, and just say, no, it's done now. It's, again, they did that in Georgia. They tried doing it in Georgia, and they almost succeeded. But, yeah.
Okay, forgive me, Angela?
Ashley.
Ashley, that's right, okay, sorry.
I guess all I would say is I don't know that you can directly compare the Russia-Ukraine conflict with our seizure of Maduro. They're fundamentally different conflicts. So I guess that would be my first point. Is the one is a territorial dispute that has been going on for quite a long time, and the other was a military operation meant to arrest somebody and take them back to our country on charges. The oil problem is separate from that, I guess, the actual military action that took place in both states. Secondly, I would just say that in today's global context, the American nation kind of has to assert itself because we have China implementing their Belt and Road Initiative and bribing other countries and setting up their spheres of influence. We are losing a lot of different port cities and strategic locations in international affairs. And so, while I don't know how viable just going into another country and stealing their leader is, we need to assert ourselves because passivity is not really a choice when you have countries like China and Russia vying for influence and trying to take these resources. So at the end of the day, it's either we get the resources or they get the resources, and their interests are directly contrary to ours, and they are a foreign hostile military power.
Sedona, why don't you go, and then we've got lots more to go.
I would 100% agree with you on that. Like, I'm so lost. Why are we sitting here being like, oh my gosh, no, like, we should let Russia and China do it because the U.S. is so bad? I don't want Russia and China to have more resources to use against us at any point. We can't say that we don't want Russia there, but then also that everybody surrounding Russia is scared of them because they're still getting more resources from it. That just, no. I think a question I would have is, let's say if some of y'all's worst fear come to life, Trump for some reason became this dictator and he was in charge for 26 years. Y'all don't want anybody to come in and take him out?
106-year-old Donald Trump.
Oh boy. But seriously, like, what is the alternative? That we leave a dictator? It's not overthrowing a government. I don't know if I love that wording. That was eliminating a dictator that has been destroying a country and causing the biggest humanitarian crisis in South America, all of America, all of the Americas. The biggest humanitarian crisis in how many years? And we are too sensitive to overthrow him because it's what, like, culturally not okay or something? And no. He had to go. I'm so glad that happened. A little unexpected, honestly, I would say. I thought if he was going to do it, he maybe would have done it in his first term, but he gave him an opportunity to not do that in his first term, and now Trump came back and he did it within almost the first year of his term. So, yeah.
Let me add something or try to simplify here, but I hope not oversimplify, and then we'll just go around with all the hands raised. Can we frame it this way? I'm not saying we should, but is it possible to frame it this way, that there's mostly agreement that Maduro being gone is a good thing? The disagreements are over how he was removed?
Yes.
Okay, so
I think it's pretty bad for U.S. foreign policy as a whole on how we've operated. It's not necessarily how the U.S. should operate. I see. We're supposed to be like a beacon of democracy, which, in turn would go with overthrowing it, or not overthrowing, getting rid of a dictator. But that's not how we do things as the United States. It does a really bad thing for our soft power and how we operate within international organizations, that we're going to go and use our military to kind of like do whatever we want to. Because we've kind of been trying to set this example since like around the Cold War that, hey, we're this nation that's going to like promote democracy and foreign relations, this like liberal world order. But now we're kind of reversing that track by, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to snatch Maduro. I mean, not to say that the U.S. hasn't been doing this for so long, but I still think it's wrong and it's counterproductive to the world order that we're trying to build because, like you said, if Trump was a dictator, but who's to say that Russia doesn't come in and just take Trump now because they don't like Trump?
They don't
really
care enough to save us, I promise.
I mean, but it's a bad example that we're setting that, hey, you can kind of just take out somebody that you don't like. This is not the world order that we're trying to build.
Not like, and then 26 years in power over this population where a third of them flee.
Well, hey, but we don't like him, but who's to say that, there's this democratic country that Russia doesn't like. Russia comes in and, said they did the same sort of operation that we did. They take out Vladimir Zelensky.
Yeah.
It really is just setting a bad example for how we want to do things as the United States.
let's go over here.
With all of this, I think there are ways to implement assertion and dominance without also implementing hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I think it just takes skillful, efficient planning, which our leaders are very capable of doing. I think sometimes emergency allots for more rash decision making. And not to say that this definitely was supposed to happen, but the way it went about, I think there could have been a way to assert that dominance and not necessarily aggression, but defensiveness. Kind of like when you're driving on the road. Like, you don't drive aggressively, you drive defensively. I feel like it's kind of like an argument like that. Like, there could have been a more strategic way to carry that out rather than preaching about a world order and trying to be an example and then all of a sudden, like, just go, because, like, how are we going to come back and continue to preach that standpoint after we have just, been complete hypocrites? But then I see, 26 years, say Trump's dictator, we need someone to help us, so I definitely think it's not black and white. I think it's a gray area, and I think this is why we're here. This brings out hows and whys and like possible explanations or reasonings, solutions.
I think it is worthy to note that Venezuelans are quite happy about the fact that Maduro was captured and that he led an extremely oppressive regime, and that Russia and China were using it as a pipeline. And so in today's world, we keep trying to uphold the world order that the Europeans established after World War II, but European power is declining.
Yeah.
They're significantly irrelevant at this point with a lot of the internal disruptions that are happening in their countries. And so if we continue to try to maintain that world order that is declining while we have major enemies that are looking for hegemonic power, I don't think we are going to be able to maintain our supremacy at this point. And that does not bode well for us, especially since we're essentially our own continent. So maybe we don't have to deal with territorial disputes on in our own space, but people are going to be trying to compete with us, and we need to be able to face those threats directly.
As much as Venezuelans are happy with their dictator being gone, do we know if they're happy with their interim president Rodriguez and how like that almost appointment went by the U.S. And then with her also being very friendly with Trump and very supportive of having really close relationships with
That's
him?
an interesting question, because I think a lot of Democrats would be happy if Donald Trump were gone, but if that means that J.D. Vance is now running the country, it might not be, the same thing applies to Venezuela, or that's what you're asking. Yeah. Anybody?
I think it's definitely interesting to think about, but I think, I do think it's comparable, and that helps to understand, the reference, but if this woman, was she his vice president?
Mm-hmm.
She's just automatically associated then with 26 years of torture and hunger and fleeing and losing family and all these horrible things. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be able
So
to
in other
give
words,
her
it's been
any
a change in
different.
leaders, but the regime is basically the same.
Yeah, and I would say, of course, we have to give it time, interim president. I think I could be totally wrong, and the U.S. could go in there, and we could build the biggest, fattest pipeline from here to Florida, and Florida to there, and get all of their oil, sure. But I think, first of all, we know that Venezuela has nowhere near the capabilities to access this stuff on their own. Okay, they genuinely would not be able to get this oil if we were not getting it for them, giving them a cut, and then taking the rest of it. So and would we rather, again, that Russia and China is taking that cut, or that we're taking that cut? I would rather take that cut if I know that Venezuela is free, their families being reunited and coming back there, and my gas is cheaper. I'm happy, personally.
Again, the whole point of, Russia and China had very much strategic interest in Venezuela. That's undeniable. Everyone knows that. And the U.S. saw this threat that there is a very large amount of influence from their rival powers in this country. And also, again, there's a humanitarian crisis happening here. Let's get rid of this leader and implement someone who is more pro-Western. Again, the whole point of we can do it, it's going to cause way more problems down the road, because now there's going to be a whole situation of other smaller countries around the world who are potentially also democratic nations or trying to become democratic nations. They're going to get overthrown, or also trying to maybe get very much deep-seated influence by other countries like China and Russia, that would cause more issues where the world order is changing. I'm not going to deny that. The way that, again, like how you said with the world order that the Europeans established after World War II, it's a dying thing. We are seeing that, it is, especially after the Soviet Union collapsed as well, the world order that we're trying to sustain with the UN and all that, it's not working the way we wanted to do. There does need to be a change. But the change, I think this is just an idealistic thing. I don't think the U.S. should be the person that just intervenes in a country because it concerns our interests. It shouldn't be again. We are a global power. We do have our influences in other countries, but we shouldn't be the one that just overthrows a country because we feel like it threatens us. It's not our responsibility to overthrow other countries.
Okay, I just want to jump in for just a second, and I want to preface this by saying I am not the expert. I wish we did have other faculty who are more expert in this than I. But to provide one analogy, I think it may be true that the European order is declining, but that doesn't mean that they're not influential anymore. It's similar to saying General Motors is no longer the top automaker in the country. That doesn't mean that General Motors isn't a big player in the automobile industry. Europe is still a major player, even if they're not what they used to be. Okay, just take them in a row here. Okay.
Oh, you want to go?
Yeah, you want to go first?
I'll just share. It's just a quick little statement. Bouncing like off of that, I think like as it becomes like not as important, and then you have so many years of it being in a not as important stage, it's gonna end up just like completely dying off. So I guess that was kind of like my opinion with that one.
Okay.
Going back to what you said about that thing earlier was said before you interrupted. Look what we did in 1989 with Manuel Noriega. George H.W. Bush got in, we captured him, we sparked the United States on justice. And today, 30-something years after, Panama is now just this most stabilized country in all of Latin America. They have a high GDP and high life expectancy.
Okay.
They could do that. We could do that.
Okay, no, I'm not denying that there's definitely a possibility where Venezuela could turn this around, and in 30 years' time, Venezuela is a stable, democratic, free nation. It's very possible. It's just that also the U.S. does have a track record in other countries where it hasn't worked out. Iraq, Afghanistan. There's also other countries in Central America where this is before, like this is during the Cold War, so this is a different situation. But when we were overthrowing a lot of left-wing, again, elected people in Central America, like in Nicaragua, Honduras, and all this, and we overthrow and put in a right-wing dictator, and then what's happening in those countries? They're still suffering from a lot of the adverse effects of a tyrannical dictator because we put it in there because we felt like we want this country to be a U.S. ally, or at least in a U.S. sphere of influence, but we don't care about the humanitarian thing. We just put someone in there who is undeniably probably worse than the previous elected person, and we caused these countries to potentially lose decades of progress because we thought, oh, they're going to go like really shoulder to shoulder with the Soviets or the Chinese, and we overthrow these countries. And what's stopping us from keep doing this? And what's the same premise that us intervening in Central America and overthrowing these democratic elected governments is it going to be the same that happened in Venezuela, where we're going to implement someone who's also just as bad because they just happen to align with us?
I mean, it really just like it raises the question of like, what is the America that we want to see? Do we want to see the continuation of the American empire, spreading democracy around the world? Or do we want to see ourselves become more like Europe, where we're more, stable, we're kind of just sitting there sipping our tea, smoking cigarettes, I'll take a nap, yeah. Or do we want to continue to be a great nation? One that is really, stands on principle. And it depends on, whether we're willing to take foreign military action. I mean, I'm flipping my stance a little bit, but it is important for us to spread our values and, stick our finger where we need to if we deem it's necessary. It's not necessarily the right thing all the time, but for maintaining our interests, I think it's important. It really just it depends on the individual on what kind of America do we want to see. Do we want to see a docile, peaceful America, or do we want to see an America that stands for our values on the global stage, even if it means taking out a dictator?
Can I respond to that, or can you? It's a shame that the U.S. right now is again, idealistically, I want the U.S. just to be a diplomatic power where we can just spread our influence non-militarily, where we can just be on a way better, the one that you're saying, we want to be a peaceful one. But today's world is a very violent world with China and Russia, where you're right, maybe it is, and we can't do this, and we do have to be a more militaristic power and intervene and put our fingers in places that we have to do that we shouldn't have to do originally, but we have to because it's a messed up world now, and it's an unfortunate scenario.
I have two questions. One, what is the jurisdiction of us, what's the legal pathway of us going in and taking him, and what court is he going to be tried in, where is he being held currently,
I know, legally, since it's, not, a declared war, the president can just it's just a military action. Since it's not a declared war on a nation, he can kind of just go in and do that.
So is this going straight to the Supreme Court since it's not like it's
on like who he's going to be charged by? I'm not sure. I know he.
National Court of Criminal.
Yeah, but we're not going to send him there because they don't do shit.
But
We're not a party.
we're not part of the Hague. We're not part of that.
Yeah,
anymore.
we're not even part of
He's
that.
held in
District of New
Washington.
York.
Yeah,
he's held
I was
in
about to
New
say,
York.
he's a
He's
district
in
court
New
in
York
New York
City.
that he's being tried.
He's held in the New York
I'll
City
look.
facility.
And he's being charged on domestic crimes, which is like another interesting precedent.
Yeah.
Where
Drug
we're going in and, well, no, it's not drug trafficking, it's firearms possession, which like going into a foreign land and charging someone with a U.S. domestic crime doesn't make sense because now you're like, you would have to make the argument that the United States has jurisdiction in Venezuela for him to be charged with that,
Okay.
which again is like we're messing with the terms of jurisdiction here.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. He has to be found acquitted of that. 'Cause
So federal criminal case for alleged narco-terrorism and also like trafficking cocaine, working with Colombian guerrilla groups
Charge-
is what I'm seeing right now.
charge 3 is firearms.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as they get him on one of them.
Well,
he's
yeah.
not-
I mean, I'm saying the precedent of charge 3 is important because like that there's no way he can be guilty of that.
Yeah, but the narco-terrorism they'll give him.
Yeah.
He's pleading not guilty, guys. You think he's gonna beat it?
Oh yeah, he's got it, dude.
He's got it. What, did you have another question?
Yeah, my second question was if it truly was just about kind of taking over like a dictatorship and like freeing the Venezuela people, liberating them, why would we also take the wife? I know that she can be charged on so many other kind of accounts, but she herself was not the dictator, she wasn't running the country. Why did we take the two of them?
Probably a fear tactic, if I'm being honest.
Maybe more of a formality because I don't think they're charging her with anything, right?
I mean, she has
Is she also-
narco-terrorism,
she's
drug
also getting
trafficking,
charged.
and corruption.
Then she
but
was
it, like,
probably doing all that right by his
That
side.
is
Yeah.
true.
And
The code inspired.
all I'm saying is if it was about liberating the Venezuelan people and taking away their dictator, why make the move to also take the wife when she wasn't the one controlling the people?
What makes, I don't know if it's possible, but I've definitely seen where like the spouse dies and then the like, other one comes and steps up to the plate and takes over, and in like a dictator, and especially like the South American, the family dictatorships is a big pattern and thing.
Maybe
So
she's
like,
association.
yeah, she would have been
Is that
the
enough?
next most convincing person that could have been the next Maduro if they wanted to go through tricking the entire population again like they did in the election, I guess.
I was. What were you gonna say?
I'm just going to quickly butt in and say, is that enough to charge someone with a crime? Guilty by association?
Like,
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Is that what you're now?
If you cause
You're
the
gonna
biggest
break. So we're
humanitarian
breaking
crisis,
jurisdictional
I'd say
rules
yes.
and the rule of law
yeah.
just for this guy.
I was gonna put in a little historical thing. In Romania during their communist dictatorship, then I forget his name, like Ceausescu or whatever.
Ceausescu.
Yeah, he was the leader of Romania, and he did a lot of things. But his wife, who was not a politician, she also did a lot of things because she also had immense influence in the country. She famously loved architecture, even though she had no idea what she was doing. So she would demand things to get built the way she wanted to be built. And then architects would be like, "Yeah, we can't do that." Like, you're gonna do it, and then they have to build it. Like, there's a train station in Bucharest where it's so small because she demanded to look like that. And the architect's like, we can't. That's not safe." She's like, "Do it anyway," and they did it. And she also did some other questionable things, but she also got taken out with her husband and then shot in the streets during the revolution. So I'm not saying that she's like that, the wife of Maduro, but I'm saying though is that like I wouldn't be shocked if she did have influence in the country. She was doing things.
well, then my follow-up to that would be, why not take the whole administration? Why not take you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you're taking the wife and you
Why
want
not
to
genocide?
fully... I mean, yeah. why
It'll
not
solve the
fully-
problem.
Now you're thinking.
I thought it might be a move of like they put the interim president because they were like, well, we have Maduro and we know you guys like have nothing else that you can do, so yeah, y'all can like keep her in there.
I mean,
know?
but she also like wants relations with Trump.
yeah,
Like she
sure.
wants.
Well, she also wants to hold office, but that hopefully won't happen.
Let's go back over here.
I think if you wanted to completely destabilize the state and send it into chaos, you could take the entire administration.
Easily. Yeah.
But that's not the goal. And with state building, you can't just get rid of the entire thing because the underlying assumptions and understandings of government that are present in that country are still going to be there, even if you get rid of the entire government. So all you would do is just create anarchy.
Yeah.
So I think it's viable to take him and his wife because, frankly, like, I'm just thinking, if you were married to somebody, you're somewhat responsible for what they've done.
Yeah.
Not that you were physically doing the same things as them, but you're responsible by association.
You are.
You know what they're doing,
Yeah.
even if you don't know the full
I just
extent of
that
it.
can't be determined though unless there is a trial. Like I mean,
Well, there will be, right?
there will be, yeah. So
Yeah.
I feel like to make those assumptions and to say like, well, she probably was doing the same thing, so she should.
Fair.
Like
Innocent
that's
until
not
proven
a,
guilty.
yeah, that's not
Fair.
really like a sensible point to make because like, I mean, to know like lawyers to know the full, you have the brief and you have to have like all the details and it's pretty freaking strenuous. So, I mean, like you're saying, guilt by association is not enough to charge, enough to bring him into court for trial, but not enough to be like, she did this and she's going there. Because like, it's kind of like if that happened here, if like to one of our leaders, we'd be like, what in the world? Like, absolutely not. Like, let's investigate. Let's go further and then make our assumption.
Just, I don't know, like saying that is almost like saying your husband's a serial killer who goes out and kills all these girls and you are responsible for his behavior. So I don't think that's like plausible.
All I'm saying is it's viable precedent to take her with him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she should be thrown in jail necessarily, but
Yeah.
it's
Precedent to
reasonable.
question her. or
Yes,
something.
it's
for sure.
reasonable.
She must have some sort of knowledge of what he was doing. Like there must be
Has to
some.
have.
There's some sort of
No,
complicit
she's blind.
activity that she was. Like I'm not saying again. It's very possible that we find out she did nothing and she was just there, and we don't know. But there has to be some sort of level where we're like, okay, she is married with him. She is around him almost every single day. There's no way she does not at least know what he's up to. Again, I don't even think she probably did all that much because again, it probably was Maduro's and his government doing most of it. She was probably just there and maybe gave her own piece of advice, but I don't think she's probably going to get charged with the stuff that he's going to get charged on. I think they're just captured both of them, charged them both, and then she's probably going to get acquitted or at least not found guilty.
It's a plea deal of the century.
No,
But-
even that, yeah, she might testify against them. That might be what
Yeah.
it is.
We've talked a lot about Venezuela. If there's anything else anyone wants to add, go ahead. But what about Iran? What are we thinking about everything going on over there? I keep checking the pizza index in DC like every night, and I'm like, when is it gonna happen? But
It's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
yeah,
I just don't think it's like I don't think it's feasible for us to do like a ground invasion.
Oh,
It's just like
goodness.
so hard to invade like Iran and like think about Afghanistan too. It's like like strategically not gonna work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't want Iran to be super unstable because I mean, yeah, sure, we bombed their nuclear program, but like did we?
It did.
I mean, like we really want them to kind of be like a stable nation. They have a lot of arms. I think it would also be in the U.S.'s best interest, like foreign policy wise, to overthrow the Ayatollah, the theocracy.
yeah.
I mean, like, I'm getting into it now, but like, I don't agree with Israel, but like the U.S. foreign policy is standing with Israel right now. So for U.S. foreign policy's sake, we must oppose Iran, and it's kind of like we really stick our nose in that region, and Iran being unstable right now is not good because, you know, they can be brash. You know, they could unite against the United States, which they've been trying to do. They're blaming it on us. I mean, granted, surely some of it's probably due to us, but the instability is just never a good thing, especially in the Middle East. I mean, we've seen how that's gone.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, that's fair. Like that's one. Like I do think that like if let's say we wake up tomorrow morning, we get to the news article that says like, oh, the protesters take over whatever their form of their government is, and they overthrow the government. No, not the opposite. I mean like their parliament building. I mean like they raided it or something like that, and they overthrew the government and it succeeded. What would that entail? I have no idea. Iran would probably, again, it would be catastrophic. I don't know what would happen. I don't like the Ayatollahs at all. The Ayatollahs and their dictatorial regime is brutal. I've seen some articles coming out where they said there's supposedly already like 26,000 dead in these protests alone, which is an insane amount. That's on par with what happened during the revolution in the 70s. So if that's what's happening right now, they're probably on the brink, and I would not be shocked if they do end up collapsing. But should the U.S. intervene? And what are we talking about? Like in the U.S. intervention, are we talking about just like airstrikes? Are we talking about full ground invasion? Are we talking about like nation rebuilding? Or are we just talking about like diplomatic support? Like what are we talking? What level are we talking about for U.S. intervention?
question.
I mean, we have the prince that we're like looking at and that we've been like kind of holding up. I forgot his name, but trying to like put in place the like former regime that was in power before the Ayatollah, just because like at least they have roots there. But that is the problem with like a lot of the nation building, is that like, okay, they've been in power for so long, so what's next? And they don't like us, so it can't really be like the United States going into like, hey, we're gonna promote democracy. They're gonna be like, get out of here, we don't want you here. So it really just like we just have to hope for the best and like maybe leave it to them. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking personally.
As much as we hate to say it, like China could be like an important role player, especially if we're looking for stability. I mean, we don't want to give them that soft power over the region, but they already have like power over Iran, like in diplomatic like scenarios. Like, I mean, they buy their oil. Like we tariff the crap out of them and we don't buy their oil. We have sanctions on them, but they still are able to like survive because China buys all of their oil. So
one thing I do want to say about the whole Iranian situation is that whatever form the U.S. does of interventions, I feel like it's something that's going to happen. I feel like the U.S. with, you know, like how she said with the pizza index, that there's something happening in the Pentagon where there's a lot of discussion about what do we do in Iran. I do think the most likely scenario, I think, is airstrikes. I think that's most likely one where they try decapitating it, or like they like trying like how they did. Where they target high profile leaders and strike it there, and hopefully they think that will cause enough instability for them to fully revolt against the country. I think that's most likely to happen. I do not see a ground invasion happening. I think the U.S. knows and is not stupid enough to think that we're going to invade a country that is like Afghanistan but with 50 million more people and a way bigger military. The reason why we lost in Afghanistan wasn't because we failed taking their major cities. No, we won that. It's that the guerrilla campaigns that they had, all the insurgencies, it's all mountain. Iran is mostly mountain. That is an impossible area to invade into whole. So I do not see the U.S. doing that. Most likely, it's going to be airstrikes. And I would not be shocked if we see this in the next few weeks happening. And with the level the protests are happening right now, they're getting worse. And there's going to be
get worse before it can get better.
Exactly, but it's just that they keep killing more people, and like every day I see a news article saying thousands of people are still dying.
The problem is that like a violent revolution will lead to a violent regime that takes over. I mean, we saw that with the Ayatollah. We like can hope for like a peaceful transition of power, but is that something that's like we can really expect or guarantee in Iran?
We don't know what will come out of Iran if the Ayatollahs collapse. We have no idea what type of government they want. There's so many different factions that are all because the main reason why they're protesting is because the economy is in the absolute dumpster right now. I don't know if you guys saw this.
That's usually when people start to care.
Yeah, fair. Like I don't know if you guys saw this. Like their economy is so bad right now that it's legitimately like their currency is worthless. Like you translate to almost any like major currency in the world, it doesn't translate back. It's zero. So like their economy has completely collapsed. So people like it's everyone from the poor to the mega rich in Iran are all being like there needs to be change. But that also includes a lot of different political beliefs. What are we going to entail? Who's going to come out on top? I have no idea. And honestly, most likely scenario is that we might end up in a situation like what happened with Syria, where it's just a massive jumble of factions fighting against each other in a massive civil war type thing.
I mean, because of that, we have to worry about like radical Islam, ISIS, and a lot of other terrorist Hezbollah. Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the idea. That's the idea.
That's a very big concern.
That radical Islamist organizations will take over.
The Taliban borders Iran. They could easily swoop in and take land.
It's something that we've seen over and over again. That like when a nation collapses, this is something that fills the gap.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, sorry. I just.
I'll just, I guess I'll ask a little question before we have to head out here. Is there anything, maybe within the next 2 weeks, month or so that you guys really want to see foreign policy-wise?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan.
Oh, you're good.
I answered your question before you finished it. Never mind.
Or is there anything from our administration?
Come back to me.
Okay.
Can we not invade Greenland? I
Yeah,
really
that's a
like
good one.
I
one.
like NATO quite a lot. I don't want to piss them off. Like,
Yeah.
Should we
not
have a
invading
meeting
Greenland.
about Greenland when more happens about
Yeah,
that?
we should do that one next week because I just saw a news article when we were like an hour ago saying that Trump is really pushing to annex Greenland, but he did rule out military. He
Okay.
did say that. So, but
Well, then
he's
he
still
can say-
heavily being like, no, we want it though. So I don't know what the heck's gonna happen. I don't think Trump was that stupid to be like, yeah, let's destroy NATO. Let's
no.
invade Denmark just for this. No.
There's no point.
United Nations and their assistance in foreign affairs and how they really like how much they're allotted and what they do and maybe like things that have happened in the past. I think the UN would be a good discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be fun. Should I close
Okay,
it?
why don't you close it out?
Alright.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for coming. We will be here same time next week. I know, shocking. Please, like I said, you can follow the Instagram. I'll be here a little bit after if you want to join the group me or you want help with UNG Connect to join us on there. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks for coming.
I know you love some Venezuela, but you're starting to. You haven't
Dude, it's